What's up, fuckers? Second video ever, and I'm already degrading my audience. Let's go. Are you ever depressed? Do you have crippling anxiety? On the outside, are you ever like, but on the inside, you're like, yeah. Let's talk about that. What's up? My name is Maddie, and I hate making eye contact. So today I wanted to talk about starting your mental health journey because I am someone who I feel that I made a lot of significant progress in the last couple of years with my mental health, and I just thought that I have found a couple things that have worked really well, that have attributed to my improvement. And there were some really critical things in the very beginning of my process that were really helpful for me. And starting is honestly the hardest part of trying to figure your shit out, especially when you're like really depressed or like you're suffering from really bad anxiety, where some days you just can't even get out of bed, or like you feel like there's nothing really to look forward to, or a myriad of different thoughts that you can have in regards to wanting to live your life every day. And there's a few things that I want to preface with. The first being that I'm not a mental health professional, so this is not like medical advice. Also, I have never wanted to not be alive, so to speak. I think in the deepest bouts of my depression, I had like thoughts about like, I wonder what it would be like to, not exist for like a day. But I never like went so far as to like plan or like take action on like my safety or anything. And I just want to highlight that because if you are having those thoughts, please talk to someone that you trust. There are resources out there you can call. The suicide hotline is now 988 in the United States, I believe. So if you are having trouble or difficulty with those things, please reach out to someone. You are worth here. I'm actually going to look at the camera for this one. Come here. All right. You are worth being able to get up in the morning and just giving life another shot. And you deserve that every single day. All right. And that was kind of my whole thing, was like, even when I was really, really, really down in my depression, I always felt that life had to get better at some point. Um, and maybe that is something that I'm privileged with, that I just had that mindset. I don't know where that came from because I know there are many people who don't feel that way, but I always felt like however bad I was doing, like at some point, like you have to be able to go up, right? So today I wanted to share 3 steps that really helped me to get me started on feeling, like a lot better. And actually, there's a secret fourth step, which is step 0. So we're going to start with that. So, step 0 of the mental health journey is that it takes a really long time, and you need to acknowledge that. And that's honestly like probably one of the most difficult things you can do, is to reckon with the fact that you might be really, really far away from your goal, which can be especially difficult if your goal is to enjoy your life. I'm here to tell you that, like, that's okay. Um, Progress takes time, and you should do it anyway, even if it feels like the worst thing in the world. You should try. And the way that I think about it is that, um, for me, I think the most of my progress has been made in about the last 2, 3 years, and I didn't know how long it was going to take at the time, but I committed myself to at least trying to feel better no matter how long it took. I think that if you told me 3 years ago that I would finally be feeling a breath of fresh air in terms of my mental health, that I would honestly probably be mad. Like, because that sucks. Like, if you're doing really bad and you hear that it's going to take 3 years to feel okay, that sucks. Like, what that I understandably like would not look forward to that, knowing that like how bad I felt and like how long it would take me to get there is not encouraging. But the way that I think about it is that for me it was 3 years. So 3 years is gonna come no matter what. And like 3 years from then has come and gone, and 3 years from now will probably come and go too. You might as well try. I really don't regret taking all this time to figure my stuff out, because the way that I feel now is really, really nice. And I'm really grateful. Like, even though it took so much time, I'm really appreciative of like the amount of work that I put in for what I'm getting out of it now. Like, I think the best way that I could probably describe it is, before, my brain felt like every breath that I took felt like heavy and it was weighing me down. And I think over the last couple years, like, all this work I've been doing is akin to like if I took like a scrubby brush and I was just scrubbing all that sludge off my brain. And now I feel, and now that my mental is in a better place, it almost feels like my brain gets to take a cold shower after a really, really hot day in the sun. It's just like the most relieving thing in the world. And like, I'll go outside now and I'll take a deep breath and it doesn't feel heavy. I feel like energized, which is like, I don't know, it sounds so corny. Like, I don't think I would ever like hear myself say that. Um, but I genuinely like feel good. I don't even like have a lot of things to look forward to all the time. Like, my life isn't perfect. I still have certain things that I want to improve on, but I feel capable now, and I feel like I'm able to take on things that I wouldn't ever do before. Like for instance, I'm like making this video. Like, I wouldn't ever even like actually consider doing it. I would think about it all the time making videos, but I never put my foot down and did it, right? So here I am. Yeah, step 0 is super, super important. And all that talking I was doing is just to emphasize the importance of letting it take as long as it needs to. And no one's path is like laid out for them in terms of how long it takes. There's no right amount of time that it's going to take for someone to start feeling better. And I'm not even saying that getting better faster is better for everybody. I think everybody takes the time that they need in order to get to where they need to be mentally, if that makes sense. By the way, these are also just tips. Like, I hate it when people say like these 3 things like cured me of this, or like this is how you overcome this, or this is exactly how you do this. I hate that. I absolutely abhor when people give assurances on something that's like objectively subjective. Like, it's like for sure like a subjective experience, and people are trying to tack on for sure ways to tackle things that are not experienced the same by every person, right? So these are really just tips, and please take them as tips. Do not take them as Bible. This is just my personal experience. So the first actionable step that I really took into my mental health journey, that I think was the biggest influence on me, was I gave myself a break. And let me explain what that means. So I was very, very like down in the dumps for a very long time. And I hated my job, and I spent all my energy just surviving. And by the time I got home, I didn't work on anything that I enjoyed. I didn't do anything that I liked. I just spent all my time just like essentially sitting on the couch and like staring at the TV or the ceiling, just like trying to recuperate enough energy just to go back to work the next day. Like, just build up enough energy to go back to the work that I needed to do to like survive, and just do the cycle all over again. And that sucks. That absolutely sucks. So the first thing that I did that really got me kicking off into starting to feel better was I gave myself like like a fake vacation, is like what I called it. Essentially what I did was I took all the stuff that wasn't necessary in my schedule, and I did not obligate myself to do any of those things. If you're going to take a vacation like I did, you still got to go to work, you still got to get a good amount of sleep, you still have to feed yourself, take care of yourself, do your hygiene routines, do all those things that you should be doing because you're obligated to, or it's like for your health, do it. But other than that, do not do anything else. You are free. Give yourself 10 days to be unshackled from literally any of your other responsibilities. So for me, I remember what day it was. It was a Wednesday in the middle of February of 2023. And I remember that I was sitting at my desk in my job, and I was just hating my life. And I was so overwhelmed, and I was so anxiety ridden. And I thought to myself, you know what? I have this whole laundry list of things that I have to do today. like all these errands that I had to run, all these things that I had to do around the house, and it was just weighing on my mind. And I said, you know what? All those things that I'm going to do today, fuck them. And you know what? I'm not going to do any of those things, not until this weekend. I'm not going to do it till the end of next weekend. So I'm going to start today on Wednesday, go home and do whatever the hell I want. And then I'm going to do that for the next couple days, have a whole extra week of that. And then I'm going to start accomplishing stuff again. And I did it in my calendar too. I took any non essential item in my calendar that I had for the next 10 days and I deleted it. Or I moved it to a different day after 10 days from now. And in all the blank space between working and sleeping, I just wrote video games. For me, it's video games. So if you're doing this, if you're practicing this, I would just write whatever it is that you enjoy doing the most, that like you put off because you have to do other stuff, or you feel guilty about because you should be doing other stuff. Just write it in, and write it in for every single block of free time that you have. If you have some time before work, I wrote video games. If you have some time after work until you go to sleep, video games. If you have an obligation that you have to be at before and after, put video games, right? So that's what I did. And what this is really practicing, which I kind of didn't realize until like after the fact, was I was giving myself permission to do the things that I enjoyed that I didn't feel like I was allowed to do, because I was so busy beating myself up saying I have to do this, I have to do that, you can't play video games, you don't deserve to do this, like you can't enjoy yourself because you just have to be better, you're not worth it, this and that. All these negative thoughts that I had in my head about prioritizing my schedule or avoiding the things that I enjoy because I wasn't prioritizing things. I said screw that. I'm telling myself that I get to do this for me. So for 10 days, I did jack shit. And I played those video games and I had so much fun. And, you know, I was still really depressed, but I really, like, it was a breath of fresh air. And when I tell you, that day, that Wednesday of me sitting at my desk before I even got home, when I had that idea, when that idea came into my mind, and I was sitting there and I gave myself permission to not do anything other than play my video games, it was like a huge weight was lifted off of my shoulders. You know, it wasn't all the weight, obviously, but I felt like something was relieved, you know? So step 1 is to give yourself a vacation. And you really have to believe in yourself that like you're going to take the time to do it, and you have to make the time to commit to doing absolutely nothing. And because you're doing it for yourself. Like, let it be a gift to yourself. So that's step 1. Step 2 of the mental health journey is actually something that I was doing long before step 1, but for these purposes, I think that step 1 should be a priority if you are starting this process now. But step 2 is what I call the one thing rule. So this works especially well for people who are not good at creating routines or following through on commitments that you're making to yourself, or like you're not very good at building a habit. So the one thing rule is pretty simple. What you do is you take one thing and you're going to do that every single day. So for me, it was folding my blanket, and my blanket's right over there. I actually just got a new one, so I'm very excited. My blanket's very important to me, and this is why. The one thing rule for me is that every single day before I left the house, I will fold my blanket. Okay? And it's not fold my blanket as soon as I get up. It's not make the bed. It's just fold the blanket before you leave the house, right? And that is the only responsibility that you have to yourself for the whole day. So in terms of like scheduling your day, like go to work, blah, 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 like, you know, practice your vacation if you're in the vacation phase of step 1. But in order to start doing things that you can commit to and show yourself that you're accountable, do not do anything else. Do one thing a day, okay? So even if like you're really bad at like brushing your teeth, you're really bad at showering every single day, or showering on the days that you want to shower. Not everybody showers every day. If you're not good at feeding yourself 3 meals a day, if you're not good at going outside because you have too much anxiety or something, right? Pick one thing in your immediate vicinity that you can do every single day. For me, it's making my bed. I use my bed every day. I use my blanket every day, and I roll around a lot in my sleep, so my blanket's always messed up when I wake up. And what I found that is after a certain amount of time, you can't go without doing that one thing. So what I found was when I was practicing the one thing rule with my blanket was that it became a point of pride. After a while, I was very proud of myself for doing this one thing every day with consistency because it's so easy. It became a point of comfort. If my day was going really shitty, I knew at the very least that in the morning I had made my bed, right? And I knew that when I would get home from a really shitty day, I would come home to a made blanket. So that was really nice. And it proved to me that I was able to do something consistently, right? Once you're able to do one thing consistently, you can do another thing consistently. And then hopefully you can do more and more after that. And I'm not the best at doing things consistently either, but I can now do a handful of things on a daily basis. And I feel really good about that. All right. So the one thing rule doesn't have to be your blanket. That's the one that I recommend because that's what's worked for me. You have to find something that works for you. And I think a lot of the stuff that I'll be talking about in terms of mental health is finding something that works specifically for how you operate. So again, for me, it was my blanket. For someone else, maybe you're really bad at charging your phone at night. Charge your phone at night. Like you deserve to wake up with a fully charged phone. For someone else, maybe it's like you use a lot of like pens and pencils, and then the thing you do every day is at the end of the day, you put them away. You put them in your pencil bin. Or maybe it is brushing your teeth for someone else, or maybe it's stepping outside for another person. Whatever it is, it's up to you to decide what it is. Find something that you're comfortable with and that you're confident in that you can do every day. And don't beat yourself up if you miss a day. All right? I think I've been doing my blanket technique for about most of the 3 years now. I think that's like the one main thing that I've really been doing this whole time. And I would say that I have a really, really, really good track record. Like I have like a 90+% track record of making my bed, or 95+%. But there are days that get like hectic for me, or like there's days where, honestly, I just forget because I'm like, I don't even look at my bed. But if it's something that you feel like you can do most of the time, I think that's the perfect thing to do. I want to get into another time why perfection is evil. And I'm sure you can already find a bunch of videos on that, but do not strive to be perfect. Just do your best. And that's really what the most important thing is that I can say for that. So that is step 2, the one thing rule. And now we move on to step 3, the last step. The last step that I can recommend. Step 3 is what I like to call the 15-minute rule. And this is probably similar to other advice that you might have already heard, but I'm just going to explain it my way because that is how I found the most value out of it. I don't know if this was a big problem for anybody else. I would assume it is. This was really bad for me after COVID, but what I would do is, especially on my phone, I'd be on social media. I would just be doom scrolling some random social media platform, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or whatever. And I would have things that I wanted to get done, or I would just want to move on with my day and do something else, or like, it doesn't really matter. I just didn't want to be on social media anymore. And I would look at the clock on my phone and it would say like 3:15 p.m. or actually 3:18 p.m. It was 3:18 p.m. I would say, okay, so it's 3:18. I can give myself 12 minutes. That brings us to 3:30. I'll start doing whatever else I need to do at 3:30, right? And then I'd be like in the middle of like a video or like a post or like reading something, or maybe I just like don't notice. And then all of a sudden it's 3:31. So like I missed the deadline that I set for myself. So I was like, okay, like 3:31 is like not crazy. I'm having a good time, like, whatever. Like let's just finish like a couple more posts. And then worst case it's 3:45, right? So you just set yourself back 15 minutes, right? And that's not a big deal, except I think a lot of you might know that this might happen over and over and over again. And all of a sudden it's 4 o'clock, then 5 o'clock. All of a sudden it's 8, 9 o'clock. It might even be like 1 o'clock in the morning, right? I think that like these periods of like distraction are so like terrible for like your mental health, not only because like are you just like overstimulating your brain with like a bunch of nonsense, you feel guilty for like wasting your day, which is kind of understandable in a way. I don't want anybody to feel guilty, but I think like the feeling of being guilty for wasting your day is very real because I have felt it many times. So that is not the 15-minute rule. It's not to waste your time 15 minutes at a time. It's actually the opposite of that. So what I took from that is when I had something to do, especially if it was something that I didn't want to do, I would look at the clock, and if it's 3:18 again in this case, I would say, okay, in 12 minutes from now, it'll be 3:30. So instead of saying, oh, I'll scroll for 12 more minutes and then get to what I'm doing, I would say, okay, well, I don't really want to do this thing, but I could probably suffer through 12 minutes of it, right? And then at 3:30, I can go back to scrolling, right? Whatever time it is, if it's 3:18, you get 12 minutes. If it's 4:26, you get 4 minutes to 4:30. If it's I don't know, 6:46, you get 14 minutes to 7 o'clock. But at most, you're only going to be doing the things that you have been putting off for 15 minutes, right? And the thing is, you might say, like, how do I get anything done if I'm only doing stuff for 15 minutes at a time? And the answer is you're probably not going to get a lot of stuff done if you're doing 15 minutes at the time. But, and it's a big but, what I found that happens is that once I start doing something for a couple minutes, I end up going past the 15-minute mark, right? So I trick my brain into doing the 15 minutes at a time thing, but for the things that, like, I'm supposed to be doing instead of the stuff that I'm wasting my time doing. And you know what? I actually used it today. I used it to start this video. So I started, I think it was like 7:11 or something, and I was like, okay, well, it's only 4 minutes to 7:15 p.m. Like, I could probably, like, do a cut of the video that's like 4 minutes long, or at least, like, start it out. Guess what? I've been recording for half an hour now, 32 minutes and 22 seconds. So shit works. But you have to have that diligence to be able to put the phone down and actually commit to doing something for a few minutes, right? And I'm not saying like you're like 100% going to fall for something and do it for more than 15 minutes, right? The goal of this is to get you doing something for at least 15 minutes. Okay? Cuz then you're doing something. Then you can't say that you didn't do it. So that's step 3. That's the 15-minute rule. And I found a lot of help with that recently. That's actually one of the more recent ones that I came up with, but I really wish that I came up with that one sooner because I've been super productive since I started doing that. And now that I've explained the 3 rules and my rule number 0 to you, I just want to say a few things. A lot of these things sound like really trivial and kind of like insignificant, and they are. Like, I'm gonna be so for real. Like, they are really insignificant. But when you're doing as bad as I was, or like potentially worse, like these things, like, you have to start small. You have to start small. If you start big, if you try to revamp your whole schedule overnight, your body is going to reject it. Your mind is going to reject it. I've done it. I've tried it so many times and it never works, and I just end up feeling so shitty about myself. I feel worse. And I tried to do all this stuff to better my life. I tried to take control of my life and I couldn't do it. Well, no shit, you couldn't do it. You're trying to change your whole entire personality to be like an it girly, or like a gym bro who wakes up at 5 a.m. every single day. Like, it's not gonna work. Are you insane? That's not gonna work. You need to give yourself grace. You need to start small. And that is why I came up with step 0, acknowledging how long it takes. Step 1, giving yourself a vacation, giving yourself permission to enjoy yourself before you even start to figure it out. And step 2 is doing one thing that you do want to do. And then step 3 is addressing things that you don't want to do. And this is the most basic version of being a functioning individual. It might be embarrassing. I know I was embarrassed for a while to be like, oh, like all I can do every day is like make my bed. I was probably only folding my blanket for a good 2 years before I came up with the vacation idea. If you think you're going slow, like, I promise, like, I was there. And it's not easy. And you just have to, honestly, you can't even promise yourself that you're going to do it, because if you fail, you're going to break your own heart. You have to just trust. You have to learn to trust that you can do these things. And it does take a while. And you might fail, and that's okay. I'm telling you right now that if you do fail, I'm not mad at you. All right? I'm not mad at you. It's okay to fail. And I wish one person was able to tell me that when I needed it. But I didn't really talk about how bad I was doing, so no one really said anything. So that's kind of the end of my spiel. But I just want to tell everybody that's watching, you are worth it. And if you want to improve, you can do it. And, you know, it might take a while, but, you know, we're going to be here for a while, I think, hopefully. So you might as well start now. And, you know, if you're really doing that bad, I always think to myself, like, you can always get better. All right. I mean, you'd be surprised. I've gone through some periods where, you know, I didn't think it could get worse and then it did. But hold on to hope. Take care of yourself. Trust yourself. And hold your blanket. All right. I felt like this was going to be more of an exciting ending for some reason, but if not. uh, anyway, I hope that everybody has a good day. Thank you for watching. I love you. Have a good one.